All right, so now we are going to be closing things out with our throwing edition of the NCAA preview. If you're, hopefully you guys have been sticking along here. I know we've got a lot of content coming your way, but we have Joe Frontier of Throw Big Throw Far podcast, started back in 2019, who's going to be joining us. Joe, thank you for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Colin. Thanks for doing what you do. It's an exciting weekend for track and field.
Yeah, definitely a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline. Should be very, very good. And so, let's jump into things on the men's side of the shot put. So, admittedly, you're definitely more of the expert here when it comes to the throwing stuff. So, but I'll start off with who I think might win the shot put. And for me, I think it's going to be the guy who came in as one of the Bowerman finalists last year, has the best PR here, NCAA record, hasn't had that breakout performance yet this year, but I'm going to go with Turner Washington of ASU. Currently has a 21-33 this year, but I feel, he knows what it takes to win. And, I don't feel like I can go wrong with that. I mean, who do you have as the possible champion for this?
Well, it's not a bad choice. He's the defending indoor and outdoor champion. He had a breakout season last year and was incredible to watch, and also won the men's discus. So he's had a lot of experience, and I'm guessing he's going to be able to put together some throws when it matters the most. Coach Brian Blutrick has done that for a lot of throwers over the years and helped them find kind of the right throws at the right time. I would say three guys have a chance to absolutely challenge and make Turner's life pretty difficult. And I think you got to give Daniel MacArthur a shout out from North Carolina, who had an enormous PR last week. He's coached by Amin Nikfar, and he went 21-51 last week. And that's a big throw for him. And so can he reproduce it, a week and a half later? That's a big question. The guy who's been doing it more often and more frequently is Adrian Paperi from Texas, coached by Zeb Sion. He's he won 2 years ago, and last year during the indoor season he hurt his ankle, and so not the indoor meet he would have liked to have had, and finished up second at the outdoor meet to Turner. So I think that Adrian probably will be able to put some pressure on him. And I got to give a shout out to Jordan Geist, who is close to the Throw Big Throw Far podcast and a friend of mine. Jordan has, probably the most famous thrower coming out of high school that we've had in years and years and years and years, the youngest guy ever to go over 70 feet, and scuffled and struggled to kind of find that consistency. And he has had absolutely by far his best and most consistent indoor season, and is producing kind of big throw after big throw, and been over 20 meters in almost all of his meets this year. And he's right there. So between the four of those guys, I would say we're going to see a great indoor men's shot put.
Yeah, I really hope I'm pulling for Jordan as well, because he's a PA guy also. And so I remember very vividly in the state championship, I guess he was a sophomore, I was a senior at the time. He pulled up to warmups with a Taylor Swift shirt throwing, and that was like the big thing in PA for a little while. And so I'm hoping that he can put together some really good throws, like those three guys that you mentioned. Turner, Adrian, and Daniel, those are going to be, three of those real guys to beat. And it was hard for me not to put Adrian at the lead, because he's been so consistent this year. I mean, he's got 4 straight throws over 21-45. Like he's really, he knows what he's been there. He's probably definitely upset of the fact that he was injured last year. So, or was that last year? Yeah, last year when he messed up the ankle. So I feel it's going to be a real battle between those, but I'm picking Adrian second, and then I'm going to go with Daniel third, just because he only has 2 competitions this year. And so it's like, and of course those 2 competitions are huge PRs for him, but it's like, there's not as much stuff to read from him. So it might be a little bit more difficult to kind of decide, where you're going to end up with this thing.
I'll say one thing about Pip is, when he comes out of the circle, he'll be the most excited guy in the entire stadium, regardless if it's a PR or not.
Yeah, there's plenty of pictures you can see with his hands up and just yelling like, "Yeah, let's go!" So yeah, he's definitely puts on a show every time he's throwing.
The adrenaline will be flowing.
There you go. There you go. So who did you have then potentially with your
Oh,
lineup? It's gonna
you're
be
gonna make me
close.
pick. That's tough.
We
That's
got
really
let's
tough.
making you pick. Who are you going with?
I would be very excited if Daniel reproduced that big PR, but sometimes it's hard to produce that, right afterwards. And so I'm gonna say sentimentally, I would love to see Jordan win this thing. And so that'll be my sentimental pick, and uh, Adrian and Turner in a close second, third. So I just hope it's a fantastic battle, but I'll take Jordan with my heart. I don't know if that's where I'd put my money, but I don't bet on track and field.
There you go. And could we see the national record go down? We saw, Turner did it last year. Could we see it go down again at this meet?
Well, I'll say this is you've got four guys who can do it. So, I think that in a typical year, you say, it's really hard to produce the biggest throw at the biggest meet. You're talking about the indoor record specifically. I just think it's hard to do that. I think obviously you taper for that and you want to produce a big throw. But I think that with four guys fully capable of going over 21 with enough adrenaline, maybe we see a 22-meter throw.
There we go. It's gonna be close. Definitely a pretty exciting competition when you got a top four that is that exciting. Next, wanted to go on over to the weight throw for the men, and so this is one that I feel is pretty exciting as well. The top two guys kind of are very different in the way that they're throwing. I'm going with Bobby Colantonio of Alabama. I'm thinking that he's going to be able to win, and I'll go into why I'm picking Israel in second in a second here. SEC champion. He's very consistent at the 23-meter mark. He was fifth last year in the weight throw, and I think when it comes to consistency, when you're at championship meets, that means a lot. And so I'm going with him taking on the lead, but it should be exciting, especially if Israel's on at this meet. What do you think there, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I think sentimentally, it's really easy to root for Bobby. He's been through a lot, and those people who know Bobby's story, was diagnosed with cancer and has beaten it and kind of had to sidestep a lot of health stuff. To see him producing throws like he's been producing all year is fantastic. Derek Yush is his coach and does a great job. Israel's a great kid. He was at Arizona with Jordan and Samantha Nennick, who I'm guessing we'll talk about in the girls, in the women's shot put section of it, and moved to Grand Canyon University to kind of be closer to family, and to see him still producing great throws. Sometimes a coaching change doesn't always lead to that, but he's produced some really big throws. Those two guys have had tons of experience. They've made, world teams at the junior level, and Israel competed last year at USA's and did a great job of the hammer all last year. And so these guys are fine-tuned machines. So I'm excited to see both of them throw, and I'll go with you with Bobby on that one. I think that your other guys, I got to see the two guys from Eastern Michigan, Newland and Tige from Eastern Michigan, at a meet earlier this year at Grand Valley State. And they produced some really big throws early on. And so to see them continue to get better during the indoor season, and two guys at the same time, Nick Green is the coach there, two guys from the same event, from the same school, is really impressive. And so those guys will be kind of helping each other settle the nerves when you got a teammate in that big meet is sometimes hard. And so maybe those guys will challenge to get on that podium as well.
Yeah. And like you said, with Israel, like he's had some massive throws, and to be able to continue that from, you're changing coaches, you're changing areas, like you mentioned, that can either do wonders or it can be a detriment depending on how well adjusted you are. The only reason that I had him a little bit lower, and it might be a little difficult, is because one issue he's had a little bit this year are fouls. Like he's had a lot of competitions or a lot of throws that he had fouled on, and that. For whatever reason that might be, that can definitely add up. Hopefully it doesn't. I'm hoping that it won't. But he has the ability to throw that. When you have the farthest throw on the board, with 25 over 25 meter, or no, he's 24.45.
He's over 80 feet. And yeah, I agree. And for if you're still listening to this podcast and you're not a throws person, following is just part of the throws. And at this meet, guys are going to push each other, and depending on who gets off to a big start, sometimes that puts pressure on the field. But sometimes you're just trying to produce a big throw. And so it's hard to tell without being at the meets to see, where those fouls happening for Israel. You produce a throw, and then you might cage a couple because you're trying to get after it because you got nothing else to lose when you're way out ahead of other kids. In this meet, everyone's going to have to be on their game, and putting the throw in is going to be huge. And then it gets easier after that.
Yeah. And then one last name that I had coming in at third for me, Jake Wicke of Kent State. So he actually beat the two guys of Eastern Michigan at the conference championships last week. So
I saw that.
Yeah. So he's coming in with all this types of confidence, because it's like, I beat these two guys that, have been we're neck and neck for this, at the top of the NCAA board. He was 8th last year. So he was a point scorer last year, and he's coming in with, all the confidence in the world. And I think, with that, all it takes is one or two really good throws, and you can be at the top of this board. So I got Jake as someone that you need to watch out for as well.
That's a great point. And then we'll get into this because I have it in my notes for the women's shot put. Don't underestimate these kids that at their conference meet, it's absolutely nails to produce a big throw when there's other competitors at the conference level. So a lot of conferences around the country, there'll be one way throw and they're 4 feet better than the field. They're 5 feet better than the field, 2 meters better than the field. But when these guys come in and, your 4th, 5th, and 6th throwers in the whole country are at the same conference meet the week before nationals, these guys aren't going to flinch this weekend. They're going to produce something big. So I like that pick.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a conference championship for them all over again. So they're just running it back. So that definitely helps. Now let's flip the script a little bit, going on over to the women's side. And how about we'll flip it over? How about you can start with the women's side? Who for the shot put? Who do you have as those people to watch out for?
So this is hard to not be sentimental. I've got 2 of my former throwers in the field here, and so this is just unfair. But if you're going to pick against Alelaide Aquilla at this point with what she's done, not only last year but also this indoor season, that's foolish money if you're betting. Adelaide won the indoor meet, won the outdoor meet. She made the Olympic team against the best of the best in the United States. Went and compete at the Olympic Games where if you're there as a college kid, you're happy to be there, but the experience that you get to put in your back pocket and bring back home with you is huge. And she's been over 60 feet in all of her meets this year. So my money's on Adelaide.
Yeah, same with me. She's got two throws over 19 meters, national champion, Olympian. She's just on a tear right now with the throws. Like it wouldn't be the wisest of moves to go against her. Who else you got for finishing out with the potential silver or bronze there?
Yeah. So, one, I got Josie Schaefer is going to be a lot to handle. And here's one of my sentimental picks. Josie coaches with me at club, and I got to work with her a little bit in high school. Just a great kid. And she was runner-up at NCAA's last year and broke 60 feet at the NCAA meet. She made it to the finals in the shot put and discus at the Olympic trials. And she has her last 2 meets of the year, 59-59. And I think that there's another big throw in her. So she is trending in the right direction. Yorinda is one of those kids who's had a lot of experience internationally. She's Dutch and made the Olympic team in the discus. She's 61-11, but hasn't had another throw that's close to that. And so what will she be able to produce at this meet? I'm not sure. She's certainly up there. Axelina Johansson from Nebraska struggled. It's unfair to say someone throwing 56 feet, 54 feet is struggling, but didn't look like 59 feet form at the Big Tens a week ago. And so even though she's 4th or 3rd on the list, I put Josie in front of both of those kids. And then Latavia Maines is seeded 5th, but she's gone well over 60 last year and just hasn't been able to kind of put the big throw together. So, she got one throw over 59 feet, but she's been there before. And so I think that's good. And then the sixth seed is Divine Oladipo at Vanderbilt, who was at Ohio State, followed Ashley Kovacs down there. And Ashley, I mean, she's putting these women in incredible positions to do extremely well when it matters the most. So I wouldn't bet against Ashley's coaching or Divine right now. And then my second sentimental favorite is Samantha Nennig, who is seeded 12th. She has not put a big throw yet together this indoor season, but people have to remember pre-pandemic, Samantha won the indoor-outdoor meet in 2019 and was the number one seed going into 2020 when they canceled the meet the day before they were going to throw. And so she graduated from Arizona State. She went on to Arizona, she's in her 6th year of throwing and her last year of her master's program. And I would say that she is ready to put together a throw, and I hope she does, because I'd love to see her finish on a high note, and she just got a ton of experience. So those are my picks. And the crazy thing, the last thing I'll say is this: going back to the Eastern Michigan guys and Jake Wicke from Kent State, the Big Ten, these women are ready to rock. I mean, they come in seeded 1, 3, 4. It took, there were 50-foot throwers that didn't get to compete at the Big Ten meet, which is just insane. And we've had years where 55 feet, gets 8th place in that conference. So those women are ready to rock and roll. And then the SEC, Jelani Davis, Divine Oladipo, Anna De Silva, Latavia Main, they're all in the same conference. And so they just finished kicking each other's teeth in last weekend. I don't think they're going to be nervous about the competition at the NCAA meet this week, because it's like, oh, back into the meat grinder again. We're just at a different place. So the SEC and Big Ten, I suspect, are ready to dominate this women's shot put.
Yeah, that so from the sound of it, like you just mentioned, that second, third, and all the way down through the rest of it, 2nd through 8, wide open. You can really see almost anyone, pulling it through. Like you mentioned with I actually also went with your sentimental pick of Josie Schaefer. I mean, she's coming off of some really good momentum, like having, your last 2 throws being 18-meter throws, and, you're coming off of that second place in outdoors. So she's definitely got some good momentum going into this competition. And then I also had kind of like that wild card of, you said it. So is it Jordan? Is that what it was for Van?
Jorinda. Yeah. Jorinda Van Klinken. Yep.
Jorinda. Yeah. So I had her also coming in. She's more of the wild card. She's more of the focused on discus. She PR'd by over a meter. Like that's a crazy amount to PR by when you're, at this level of an elite athlete. And so she's just starting to really get into the shot now. And I guess she's starting to figure everything out. And so I think that she'll be exciting to watch as well, with, coming off of pretty big PRs this year. Like, will you be able to replicate those type of throws, even though, you haven't done it yet, but that doesn't mean you can't do it at the biggest stage.
Blue Trick will have her ready. I mean, Blue Trick has produced so many national champions, including Turner, who we already talked about, and Jorinda in the discus. And last year I wouldn't put it past her to put together a big throw when it matters.
They know how to throw stuff over in Arizona.
They do.
They know how to throw stuff. And then let's finish things off here. We've got the women's weight throw. Who do you have as some names to watch for this event?
Well, Shea Taiwo from Ole Miss, she has the biggest throw coming in by over a meter. And so it's hard to just say she's not going to go and win it. But she hasn't been absolutely dead to rights consistent with it. And so I'm really interested to see how she throws. But I got to think that she's going to be the favorite. Here's the crazy thing. Those of you who don't know the weight throw, John Smith is the greatest weight throw and hammer coach in the country. He's got 3 women here in the top 7 in the whole country. So Jasmine Mitchell comes in seeded 3rd, and Jelani Davis, who also qualified for the shot 7th, which is just outstanding. She's the only one in the field that's qualified in both, are all from Ole Miss. John Smith has just crushed it year after year after year after year after year. He coached at Southern Illinois, produced, numerous national champions there, including Deanna Price, who's the the American record holder and is starting to threaten the world record. He knows what he's doing. So those women will be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. Another person who I had to definitely look out for was Dina McMiller of Memphis. So coming in with a 24:08. One thing that she's got going for her is she's thrown farther every week of this season. And so, that's just showing a trend of, hey, if you're getting better as it starts to matter the most, like that's really important. And another thing on the kind of the chip on her shoulder, she fouled out at weight last year. And so she's got that, I didn't get to do this last year, I want to do it now. Is she a junior or a senior? I can't remember. I'm not sure if she was a junior or a senior.
I think she was a sophomore last year.
Okay,
so she must be a junior now.
Yeah.
I can look it up real quick.
Yeah.
Well, it says Tiffers has her as a senior, but I think she might still have one more year of eligibility. I might be wrong. I apologize for that.
Yeah.
But I had that in my notes too, that she fouled out. And sometimes that is the chip on the shoulder. That is the bulletin board material to say, I didn't take advantage of my opportunity last year. And, I think the great ones, they learn from those mistakes and those tough meets, sometimes more than the successes. And so, yeah, it'd be cool to see her, find some redemption.
Yeah, so she's going to be exciting. And then I had the two Ole Miss ladies coming in as well. I was debating whether I would go with Shay or Jasmine because of just Shay obviously coming in with a huge throw, but like you mentioned, it's that consistency. But she also has another 25-meter throw as well and a couple 24s. So she's got a few big ones and then a few that may not be left to be desired, to put it that way. And with Jasmine, she beat her at conferences. She won the SEC championship just last week, so I'm sure she's definitely excited. Coming in with that win from 2 weeks ago. So it should definitely be a dogfight for who's going to be coming out with the championship here.
100%. I'll say two more names just that I think have a chance to do some damage here. Maddie Malone's seeded fourth. She's from Auburn. Her coach, Pat Ebel, was at UW Oshkosh here in Wisconsin that won, his throwers won the Division III national championships in men's, women's shot, disc, hammer, year over year. And I think this is his fifth year at Auburn, and Maddie's been there the whole time. So this is really his first kid that just developed from ground zero to the fully formed thrower that she is. And so I think she's probably primed to throw really far. Pat has always done a great job having his throwers ready. And then down the list a little bit, but Cameron Rogers is coming on hot in the weight. And Cameron Rogers from Cal, coached by Mo Satara, Canadian Olympian last year. She broke the hammer NCAA hammer record and won the NCAA hammer championship last year. Came in fifth at the Olympics, which is absolutely astonishing. It is incredibly hard to compete at a conference meet at the college level and then go to an NCAA regional and perform well and go to the national meet and then go and compete for your country to make the team and then, wait another month. And it's really hard to do that, to hold on to big throws and kind of that kind of peak form. And she did an amazing job last year in the hammer, and she's getting better and better at the weight. She doesn't practice the weight that much. And so to see her kind of coming into form, I wouldn't put anything past her this week to get on a podium.
That's a good question that I had that I'm sure a lot of the listeners here are mainly sprinters and jumpers, and so may not be too familiar with the difference in the weight and the hammer. But obviously they're the two throws where you're holding like ball and chain essentially. How closely related are they that you can see, hey, if you're good at the hammer, that should translate to the weight? Like how kind of related are those two?
I think the concept obviously is the same. You've got a weight on a wire, much shorter in the weight, and a handle, and you're rotating. Wind, rotate. Most of these women will turn 3 times. Some of them might turn 4 times. The hammer is a very different beast. The hammer is the same weight as a women's shot put. So you've got 4 feet between you and the weight, plus the length of your arms, and basically a 9-pound ball on the other end of you. It takes a very different human being to counter a 9-pound ball, which isn't very heavy for the strength that these women have, compared to countering a 20-pound weight on a much shorter handle And so you can get to the finish and kind of proverbially grip it and rip it, which is not really the ideal, but you can get away with it. And these women that we just talked about, these women are incredibly strong. If you're not a thrower and you think you're strong, or you think, hey, I played high school football, I'm a sprinter, I guarantee you that there are some of these women that are far stronger than you, and they probably have heavier squats than you can do if you're listening to the podcast right now. And I'm not kidding. So the power it takes to produce enough energy to turn this thing and get it 75 feet away from you, or 82 feet if you're Shea, is tremendous. I think the difference is there's a lot more finesse and patience that has to happen when you're turning the hammer, that you can get away with not having all the time with the weight, but it takes a really specific human. The power that it takes to get the weight to move that fast, that far, is very, very specific. It's this very thin sliver. I think there's a lot more hammer throwers that throw over, let's say 220 feet than there are women throwing over 75 feet in the weight. I just think there's probably more of those humans walking the earth. Whether they bump into a hammer coach that can get them there is two different things. But I don't know if I differentiated that well, but that's my best attempt.
Oh yeah. And I mean, what you said with the strength that a lot of these ladies have, yeah, it's crazy. You can probably see some of they'll post training videos on Instagram. I know I've seen a few from Raven Saunders posting that stuff, and it's like, oh man, like I don't know if I'm ever gonna reach that squat that you just had with that depth. It's just not gonna happen, no matter what I do.
Yeah, I think if the average human, thinks about throwers or oh, those are the big girls throw the shot or the weight or the hammer. There are certainly some big girls throwing the weight, but these are elite athletes, and I wouldn't want to back them into a corner and say, get out of here. You would fall victim to them getting out of the corner.
100%, 100%. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us and closing out here with our NCAA preview. I mean, before we close out, where could people go to hear more about the throws with you guys?
So you can go to Throw Big Throw Far on Instagram. Lots of throwing videos and of my high school throwers, but kind of the college throwers that have graduated from my program. Got 15 kids in Division 3, 2, and 1 competing in the national championships. From my group, which I'm really proud of those kids competing this weekend. So go to Throw Big Throw Far on Instagram, or go to the Throw Big Throw Far podcast, all the places that you listen to podcasts. Listen to Colin if you want track stuff and throw stuff once in a while. And if you need more throw stuff, come to the Throw Big Throw Far podcast. We'll take care of it.
Exactly. That's I couldn't recommend it more. Definitely your go-to for everything throwing. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's listening. You stuck around for the whole thing. Geez, it's a lot of content, but hope that you all enjoyed it. We have NCAAs coming up this weekend in a few days. I guess we'll see how our picks land. We've had a lot of picks, and hopefully they end up being right. But that's going to be it for us here with Track World News. If you want more content, go and make sure that you follow us on Instagram at Track World News. Leave a like, leave a subscribe. It all helps us out. Know that you're enjoying everything. But that's going to be it from us here. Have a good one, and peace.